Welcome back to the 10-second runoff powered by Culture Media with your host, Joe Mitchell, producer, Magic Mikey Shiaza. There he is. Look, we are halfway through the regular season of college football. As crazy as that sounds, here we are.
I don't like that. I don't like that we're already halfway through. I mean, it feels like it just started, but that's just how it goes. But we also do have bowl season after the regular season, so we get to hold on for a little bit more.
No, but this is what we live for right here. College football season, regular season. Bowl season's great and all, man. But a lot of time, and first of all, I'm not one that thinks there's such thing as meaningless bowls. Bowl season's amazing. But regular season, this is where it all counts, right? This is my favorite part of the year. Specifically getting into October, everything ramps up a little bit. You get into November, and then it gets crazy. But we're in week 7, still about halfway through October here. Before we get into games this week, I just want to ask y'all, please sub to the channel. As we grow that subscriber count, we can go ahead and put some more funds into what we're doing here, get a good betting model, come up with our own lines, that kind of stuff. We do have locks of the week for you at the end of the show, so stick around. All right, let's kick it off. Number 1, Georgia at Vanderbilt. Georgia's a 31.5-point favorite. We just saw Georgia absolutely dominate Kentucky last week. Vanderbilt really hadn't been great all year. The silver lining for Vanderbilt is they're, doing upgrades to their stadium. Why they're doing it during football season is beyond me. But
while they're doing it during games, they have construction going during the games.
Yeah.
It literally, I said this at the beginning of the year, it feels like a video game. Like, it doesn't feel like that's a real stadium right now.
Yeah. It doesn't look like a real stadium right now either. But nonetheless, they will be playing there this weekend. Georgia's heading there. 31.5 is a big line. Georgia hadn't been great against the spread this year. They covered last week by a wide margin. How do you feel about the line?
I feel like where Georgia's at right now, like we keep talking about how they were getting all their players back, and I think they're finally starting to get into the swing of things. And I have no problem with the line. I think Georgia covers. Yeah,
I saw a lot of quarterback power ratings in the SEC. A lot of people have Carson Beck as number 1 in the SEC. That's a little bit crazy to me considering the stat lines Jaden Daniels been putting up. A lot of people even have Jaden Daniels in their Heisman list, the top 5. But nonetheless, a lot of people are putting Carson Beck at number 1 in the SEC in terms of quarterback. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I will acknowledge that people are putting him there.
It's happening.
Yeah. Look, regardless, Georgia's coming together really well. Running backs are playing well. Brock Bowers playing really well. The wide receiver room's playing well. The defense is great. What they were able to do to Ray Davis last week was really, really impressive. Big win for Georgia. Not much more to be said here. Michigan versus Indiana, more of the same. Michigan, it's a 33.5-point line in the Big House. We got much more to say on that?
No.
Yeah, Michigan's going to dominate. Okay, number 3, Ohio State at Purdue. Ohio State's a 19.5-point favorite. This one's tricky. I would say in years past, specifically last year, right? Purdue was a pretty good team. They played in the Big Ten Championship versus Michigan. But this isn't the Aiden O'Connell Purdue we were used to last year. Hudson Card's the quarterback this year. So far, he's thrown for 1,491 yards with a touchdown-interception ratio of 6-5. Not great. Quarterback rating of 126.7 as opposed to what it was last year for him was 158.1. He's struggling. He's struggling up there at Purdue. And I don't necessarily think that's entirely indicative of his play. Purdue is a lot different than Texas, obviously. That's where he was last year. Ohio State's coming together really well. Kyle McCord's playing well. Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, Travion Henderson at running back. Just dominant pieces all over the field. Look, here's the thing, right? Ohio State is looking to be the number 1 team in the Big Ten, and it's a tight race between Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. But Ohio State's in that conversation, and they're looking to kind of solidify themselves. Look, they'll get to play Michigan and Penn State later in the year. Whereas the situation for Purdue is they're trying to not be bottom tier in the Big Ten West right now. And that's a tough place to be. Ohio State's going to win big. The line's only 19.5. And I say only because I would expect an Ohio State team as talented as this one to be in that same 30-point range that Georgia and Michigan are in their games respectively. I like Ohio State to cover the 19.5-point line. Thoughts?
No, I 100% agree. I mean, yeah, you said it best. If put them at 19.5 and the other two in the 30 range, I feel like Ohio State's definitely up there with them. I mean, I literally just reciting what you said, but I completely agree.
Yeah, going back to the chat here, Jack Ballard commented, so let me backtrack back to Georgia. I said that, yes, I wanted to go ahead and acknowledge that there were some people that listed Carson Beck as the best quarterback in the SEC. Jack disagrees. He says Carson Beck can't hold Jaden's nuts. I didn't say it. He said
Not
it.
our words.
But, Jack, there's some people that disagree with you. I'm not going to necessarily say I disagree with you, but some people do. All right, number 4, Florida State versus Syracuse. This one, Syracuse just got absolutely dominated by North Carolina last week. Drake May had a day. North Carolina had receivers that just played the games of their lives last week, and Syracuse only put up 7 points. They gave up 40. Florida State's a team that's unbeaten. They have wins over LSU. Clemson. Who else am I missing? I feel like they have another good win. Let's see. They have wins over LSU, Clemson, and Boston College. That Boston College one wasn't anything crazy, but it was they proved that they could go to the wire and find a win there. This Florida State team is really, really good. They get Syracuse this week. They get Duke next week. That's one to keep an eye on. But the point here is this isn't going to be a game. In my opinion, right? In my opinion, this isn't going to be a game. Florida State's going to absolutely do more of the same what North Carolina did last week. I'm looking for a 3-possession difference here. Score differential, that is. I'm looking for Florida State to put together 4 quarters of complete football. They've been really good this year and winning close games, even when they get taken down to the wire, right, with Clemson, with Boston College. Even though it is Boston College, they've been really successful at fixing the problems and go and get it done late. So props to them there. I need to see 4 quarters of full football, good elite football, and I think we can see that this week. Jordan Travis is playing. He's playing great this year, but I need to see him step up. If we're going to talk about Florida State in the college football playoff conversation with teams like Washington and Oregon, who play this week, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, any of those teams that we're seriously talking about for the college football playoff. Look, and also I want to say I do think Florida State is in that conversation because of the remainder of their schedule. I think their schedule is really favorable for them up until the ACC Championship. I think they have percentage-wise, they've got to have a great opportunity to get into the playoff. But for me to start talking about them winning a playoff game, I need to see Jordan Travis play like a Heisman, and I need to see Johnny Wilson stop dropping footballs. And look, all seriousness, Johnny Wilson's a great receiver. The profile's there. The hands, for the most part, is there. The physicality's there. Keon Coleman has been great. But the only knock I have on Johnny Wilson right now is he hasn't consistently caught the ball. If he can just start doing that at a more successful rate, Florida State's a problem. And I need to see that. Those are the 2 things I'm looking for out of Florida State is I want to see more consistent elite-level play from Jordan Travis and just Johnny Wilson catching the football more consistently. Other than that, I think that puts Florida State in the conversation of, okay, this is not only a playoff team. This is not only a team that can get in the playoff, but this is a contender once we get there.
So according to the FPI, Alex's favorite way to measure a team, Florida State currently sits at 25.6% chance to make the playoff.
To make the playoff, wow.
And 10% to make the national championship.
So you know what that means. Because that means they either think, the FPI either has Duke beating Florida State next week or Florida State getting to the ACC Championship unbeaten and losing.
Yep.
That's really interesting. I don't know if I agree with that. I think Florida State's got a really good shot to make the playoff. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I know Alec would be popping off if he was here right now, talking about how he hates FPI.
Oh, yeah. He hates it, absolutely. But the Duke game next week is going to be interesting. I'm excited to break that one down a week from now. Regardless, I don't think this is going to be a game. I think Florida State's going to win by probably 3 possessions or more.
So the spread is 17.5.
Yeah.
So you would agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, North Carolina beat Syracuse last week by 33. I don't think it's not fair to say Florida State has to beat Syracuse by 33 to be even with North Carolina. That's not the reality of it. There's matchups that go into it. There's where it's played, all that kind of stuff. I think that's that is a dumb argument to make. But I am looking for Florida State to win this one by probably 20, 24, somewhere in there.
Jack brought up another good point in the chat. He said, or they have them losing to Miami. Which, after last week, if they make another bonehead mistake like that, I don't see that happening. But I think Miami's kind of a sleeper team.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And right now, Miami's in wounded animal mode. Miami has an interesting game this week. They have North Carolina this week. So one of those teams will likely be knocked off, and that'll shake up the ACC a little bit. Not likely, will for sure be knocked off. If Miami finds a way to beat North Carolina, it gets really interesting. If North Carolina beats Miami, then Miami's out of the ACC conversation.
For sure.
Yeah, so we'll see. But like you said, or like I said, they are in wounded animal mode after losing that game. Ooh, I cannot wait to get there. All right, number 5, Oklahoma's on a bye. Amazing win, by the way, in the Red River rivalry. I know we talked about it on the reaction episode, but great win. Dylan Gabriel found himself in the Heisman race this week, and deservingly so. Great win. Number 6, Penn State versus UMass. Here's an interesting stat for you. Penn State is minus 41.5 in this game. They are 6-0 against the spread. Penn State has not missed, or they have covered every single week. 41.5 is a big line. That is a big spread. Are they covering again? I'm asking you.
Not if we bet on them.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, wait, no, let me change that. Not if you bet on them.
Not if I bet on them, no.
Especially, do they play at night? If they play at night, then we're definitely staying away from that.
No, that's an 11 o'clock game. Because
there might be a chance.
I did consider that because I was like, look, Penn State has covered every week. Even if they have to go score in the last possession of the game, like they're not kneeling it out. They're going cover. Or at least they have been.
Or at least they did up until now.
Yeah. I really thought about teasing that down a little bit, taking an alternate spread at like 33, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna just see, and I'm gonna just watch this one and see what happens. The Minutemen have no shot. Sorry, UMass. It's not happening.
No.
Penn State's been really good. Look, I personally, right now in our power ratings this week, I had Michigan at number 1. I think it could go either way between Michigan and Georgia. Also, our Instagram comments, they wore me out for having Michigan at 1.
Yeah. Usually I will say in the comments it always says Alec doesn't know ball. This week
it was all
Alec knew ball.
Yeah,
it was almost unanimous that Alec. Yeah. The crowd agreed with Alec the most.
It was funny. One of the comments was a repeat. He's a follower of ours. He always comments on those power ratings. He likes the power ratings. But he commented, Alec redeemed himself. I take back everything negative I've said. Fair enough. Which is funny because I got a lot of love last week for having Michigan at 1 over Georgia. Because Georgia, went down to the wire with Auburn, and a lot of people said they didn't deserve to be 1. After the Kentucky game, immediately they deserve to be number 1 now.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I do think it's a toss-up. I'm like I said on the reaction show, I'm not mad either way. If somebody told me Georgia's number 1 team in the country, I'd say okay. If somebody told me Michigan's the number 1 team in the country, I'd say okay. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think it could go either way. Outside of those two, I don't think we have a true top 4. I think we have a true top 2 right now, and then a pretty large field between Oregon, Washington, Penn State, Ohio State,
Florida State.
Florida State's in there. Who else? Who else is in there right now?
Does Oklahoma have a chance?
Oklahoma's absolutely in there. Yeah, Oklahoma's absolutely in there. Also, the amount of love Alec got this week because he put Oklahoma at 6 when last week I had him in my power rating and he didn't.
Recency bias.
Recency bias.
It's the same thing with Georgia and Michigan. Like last week.
I've been on Oklahoma now. I've been on Oklahoma, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Let's move on. What did he say in Division III? Doesn't matter. Let's move on.
Great movie.
If you caught that, drop a comment. Number 7. This is the big game. This is the game of the weekend. Number 7 Washington versus 8 Oregon. It's a 2.5-point spread Washington's way in Seattle. This one is going to be absolutely insane. I cannot wait to see this. Look, this game, for all intents and purposes, is deciding the Pac-12. Whether the winner of this game wins the Pac-12 championship, I don't know. But the winner of this game will play for the Pac-12 title. 100%. I will not be convinced otherwise. These are not the two, but two of the best teams in college football. Two of the best quarterbacks in college football with Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix. Right now, Michael Penix Jr. is number 2. He's the second leading passer in all of the country. Coming off a season where he was the first leading passer in the Power 5. He was the second leader. What was it? I want to say the first overall leading passer was out of G5. Was it Western Kentucky? I believe so.
Yeah.
It was Austin Reed. Yeah, out of Western Kentucky. But yeah, two of the best quarterbacks in the country. Bo Nix is playing like who Bo Nix was supposed to be out of high school. At Auburn, he was like, it was weird. You had a first and second down Bo Nix, and then you had a third and fourth down Bo Nix, who was like baller. First and second down, he really struggled. Third and fourth down, when it was clutch, in crunch time, he went and got it done. And now we're seeing that Bo Nix all game, every game, balling. Oregon's playing out of their mind in the run game. Defensively, they're playing really well. Every player on that team, I can't say that puts on a green or black or yellow or pink or chrome helmet because it changes every week. But everybody on that team would run through a brick wall for Dan Lanning, which is really fun to watch. They play as a team. The chemistry is awesome. The wide receivers are really good. Everything's going right for Oregon so far until this point. They get Washington. They go on the road, going to Seattle. This is where I've really struggled. This is where I've really, really struggled because I think Washington can win this game. I think Washington wins this game. But it's got to be Michael Penix Jr., Rome Odunes, Jalen McMillan, and the rest of that team, like the rest of the receiving core. 100% has to be. I think if you get elite days from Michael Penix Jr. in that receiving core, Washington wins, and Oregon's not going to be able to do anything about it. I genuinely think that I think the talent that Washington has at quarterback and in the wide receiver room is too much for Oregon to handle. But Oregon has more ways to win the game. I think Bo Nix is capable of keeping up with Washington to some extent. I don't know if he can go blow for blow the entire game, but I think he can keep up with Washington and keep Oregon in the game. You go to the running back room, Bucky Irving. Oregon, I'm not making this prediction, but Oregon absolutely has the capability of controlling time of possession and keeping the ball out of Michael Penix Jr.'s hands. If they can do that successfully against a Washington defense that, frankly, has struggled, it's very likely Oregon wins. And that's why the line is so close. Look, it's 2.5-point favorite Washington's way. They give you 3 points for playing at home. That means on a neutral field, Oregon's a half-point favorite. This one's a toss-up. Ah, man, I've been stuck here. I've been stuck on this one. Mikey, throw something in there. Help me out here. What do you got?
Home field advantage. I'm going Washington.
So that's literally what Vegas said.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. I think that this is going to be a great game fought by both sides. I think that Michael Penix Jr. will win this game, and I think this will be his Heisman moment game. And we'll look back on this and be like, yeah, that's why he's the Heisman. And he wins the Heisman. Putting two predictions out there for you.
Look, so you have Tez Johnson, wide receiver for Oregon. Troy Franklin, both in their draft year. Troy Franklin's a junior, but he very likely is going to the draft. He's been a baller all year. If they can match the production, they don't have to match the production. Let me just say that. If they can get 75% of the production that Washington's receiving room is going to get this game, then I think Oregon wins. Because Bo Nix is so good at quarterback. I would take Michael Penix Jr. over Bo Nix, but Bo Nix is really, really good at quarterback. The run game for Oregon has been great. Bucky Irving is one of the best running backs in the Pac-12. I truly believe that. And Troy Franklin's no slouch, baller. If Tez Johnson and Troy Franklin can get 75% of the production that Washington's receiving room gets, then I think Oregon wins. That being said, I'm taking Washington.
So you don't think they match?
Look, like I said before, I
think
they
could.
They absolutely could. And this is a toss-up game. I've really struggled with it. I said preseason that I think Washington's going to win the Pac-12. Alex said preseason that he thinks Oregon's going to win the Pac-12. This is where we collide. It looks like Vegas kind of is having the same struggle. They threw 3 points Washington's way for playing at home. Otherwise, it's not even a point differential. Again, I think Washington's going to win. I think the mixture of Michael Penix Jr. and their just dominant wide receiver room is the difference. But I do think Oregon has more ways to win. I think they're better defensively. They can control time of possession better. And if they do those well and can be consistent doing that through 4 quarters of football, look, there can be no mistakes made. When you're playing an offense as dominant as Washington's, there can be no mistakes made. But if they can do those things, if they can keep the ball out of the hands of Michael Penix Jr. and have solid production on the ground, then yes, they can win. But I'm taking Washington.
Jack in the chat says, I feel like Oregon's defense is going to make a big play late, Ducks by 3.
Okay. I like that take. I don't hate that. I think that's absolutely reasonable.
I think it's one of those things where I think like I said, I think Washington's going to win. It's going to be close. But I do think if Oregon wins, it will be on a late, dramatic play like that.
Yeah.
After, obviously, fighting and keeping it close all game.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
one's tricky.
It's game of the week for a reason.
Washington realistically could have 3 receivers taken in the top 2 rounds of the NFL draft. They could have Romo Dunes, Jalen Polk, and Jalen McMillan all go in the first 2 rounds of the draft. I know there's a couple different receiving rooms around the country. Ohio State's got they have a great 1-2 punch with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka. LSU has a great 1-2 punch with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. Oregon has a great 1-2 punch. But when you talk about receiving room, all 3 starters together, Romo Dunes, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, they can all go in the top 2 rounds in the NFL draft. You mix that with Michael Penix Jr., who was the leading passer in the Power 5 last year and is second right now. Oh, man, it's really, really, really hard for me not to take them and to lay my money with Washington on this game. We'll see. It's going to be a great game. I'm going to be locked in the entirety of it. I'm going to go Washington 1-possession game. We'll reassess next week on the reaction and see what happened.
Alec, what's your take?
Okay.
Great. Awesome.
All right, number 9, Texas is on a bye, trying to recover. They turned it over 4 times against Oklahoma. Look, we said that. We said that on the preview episode. Look, me and Alec and I both, we took Texas in that game, but we said you can't screw up all game and expect to win against Oklahoma. We said Texas could afford 1 or 2 mistakes. Oklahoma could afford none. Oklahoma played a perfect game. Texas did not. Saw that. We saw what happened. Texas gave them one last shot with less than 2 minutes to go. Oklahoma took advantage of it, scored with less than a minute, and that's how you do it. You can't give great teams extra opportunities over and over, and that's what Texas did. I don't think it's over for Texas. They'll very well find them. They can still very well find themselves in the Big 12 Championship, probably against Oklahoma again, and it's really hard to beat a good team twice. So we'll see what happens. I don't think playoffs are out of the picture for Texas, but it just got a lot harder. Can't lose another one. All right, number 10, USC at 21 Notre Dame. Before I touch the line here, who would you favor right now?
That's tough, but I feel like I feel like Notre Dame is still a more complete team, so I would go with them. Despite recent weeks and their losses, I still got to take Notre Dame in this one.
Vegas has it at Notre Dame -2.5, and this is very similar to the Oregon-Washington line. They're playing in South Bend, and it's 2.5 points. They give you 3 points for playing at home. So USC would be a half-point favorite on a neutral field this week. I agree with you. I think Notre Dame is the more complete team. They're better defensively. They have more options offensively. Look, they don't have Caleb Williams at quarterback. I think Sam Hartman's great, but at the end of the day, he's not Caleb Williams. You know what I mean? That's not a shot at him. I think he's a great quarterback. I think any team in the country would be lucky to have him outside of maybe 4 teams, maybe 4 to 6 teams. But I agree. I do think Notre Dame is the more complete team. But man, they're banged up. They played Ohio State, went down to the last possession of the game. They ended up losing that one in heartbreaking fashion. They went down to the last possession of the game against Duke. They honestly got skull drugged last week by Louisville, and I think that's because Louisville just caught them at the right time. Look, I had Notre Dame in my top 10 power ratings again this week. Got wore out for that. But I think the reality of it is Louisville caught them at the right time, and if Louisville and Notre Dame were to play again on a neutral field, Notre Dame would be favored. And they were favored last week. So I'm not backing down from that. I think Notre Dame is a top 10 team in the country. But yet again, they've had a brutal 3-game stretch, and it's not getting any easier this week. Preseason, I took Notre Dame to win this game. I didn't anticipate Duke being as good as they are. I didn't anticipate Louisville being able to do what they did to Notre Dame. Again, I do think Notre Dame is a better team than USC, but I think USC wins. I think USC is firing on all cylinders offensively. Now, let me backtrack, because in terms of capability, they have a really powerful offense, but they struggled last week. They had 28 points at the end of regulation against Arizona. So there needs to be a couple changes offensively going into this week because they're going to play a much better defense than Notre Dame. And they can't let Notre Dame do what they let Arizona do to them defensively. Damn, bro, this really is a toss-up. I think Notre Dame is the better team, but because of Notre Dame coming off that really long stretch of just brutal games, and then USC heading into the gauntlet of their season, and this being the first game of it, I'm going to take USC. I think USC is going to come out fired up. I think Notre Dame's a little bit banged up. And USC has so many tough games ahead of them, but they cannot afford to look past any of the opponents they're going to play in the next 4 to 5 weeks. I think they give Notre Dame everything they've got and find a way to win. But again, I want to stress, I really do think Notre Dame's the better team. I think USC just finds a way to win. Thoughts?
I mean, you bring up valid points. I still think USC loses. I still think Notre Dame wins. You were talking about how Notre Dame is banged up. I mean, that's 2 weeks in a row, too, that USC went down to the wire. I mean, they went into overtime against Arizona. They won by 1 score against Colorado. I mean, they need to pick it up. If they want to win this game, they need to play their best game defensively of the season, and I'm not sold yet. Like, we haven't seen it yet, so I'm not gonna think that we're gonna see it this time. But if they can figure it out and they can find a way to execute on all levels, then I would agree with you. It's gonna be a toss-up, but I think Notre Dame wins.
Yeah. Look, I'm on the other side of the fence from you, but Vegas is on a half-point line here on a neutral field, so I'm not going to disagree with you too much. In the comments, Jack said you'll get a free meal right before sweating out your bet. What he's talking about there is I'll be in Baton Rouge for the LSU-Auburn game this week. I'll be in Death Valley watching that one. We'll get to that game when we get there. But I will be featured in the Balcony Bengals corn dog eating contest. That's going to be interesting. I'm going to leave it all not on the field because we won't be on the field. I'll leave it all on the balcony.
I'll leave it all on the balcony.
I'll give it everything I got. Damn it, if I don't win, I'm going to be upset. But that's what he's talking about. He also said, I think this is the classic game where we say, quote unquote, if Lincoln Riley ever had a defense. Yeah, man. lots of USC fans in our comments and in our DMs who really had kind of given us hell in the past because of how much we not necessarily disrespect USC, but can level with the reality of the situation, that Alex Grinch just has not been productive as a defensive coordinator at Oklahoma nor at USC. And they're coming around. They're starting to say, yeah, maybe you weren't being disrespectful. You were just actually saying what was going on. And we're certainly never trying to be disrespectful for no reason. Like, that's never the point. I don't think Alex Grinch is the guy at USC. I think their offense is good enough. I think they have a championship level offense, but their defense is not good enough to. They're good enough to get to the playoffs. They haven't been yet, but I think they're good enough to get to the playoffs. Maybe in future years. Again, not even really this year. I don't think they can get there this year. They're certainly not good enough to win a playoff game against one of the 4 best teams in college football. I think until a change is made at USC defensively from the top down, until they get a defensive coordinator not named Alex Grinch, I don't think you can talk about USC as a true playoff contender, which is brutal because when you have a quarterback as good as Caleb Williams and an offense as powerful as they have and a coach as good as Lincoln Riley, it's devastating for that fan base and for Oklahoma's fan base when he was there. Oklahoma got to the playoffs, it felt like damn near every year, but could never find a playoff win, even with Baker. So even with Jalen Hurts.
And with Kyler.
So
there's 3 first-round quarterbacks right there.
yeah, and
Well, Hurts second round? I don't know. Regardless.
and
He's the MVP now.
2 Heisman quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And this will be the 3rd, Caleb Williams. So I don't know if they get there this year. I don't think they do. They didn't last year when Caleb won the Heisman. Yeah. I do like USC to win this game, which hurts me to say, not because I'm not a USC fan or because I am a Notre Dame fan. It's neither of those are true. But I hate going against my own picks. And preseason, I had Notre Dame winning this game. Regardless, we'll see how that one plays out. We'll reassess next week. All right, we have – let's see. Yeah. Said crazy that Lincoln has had 3 Heisman quarterbacks and Jalen Hurts, 0 playoff wins. 100%. All right, number 11, Alabama versus Arkansas. Alabama's a 20.5-point favorite. I don't love this line, I'll be honest. I don't think Alabama is playing well enough offensively to go beat Arkansas by 21 points. Arkansas took LSU to the wire. They lost that game by 3 points. They played well against Ole Miss. I think Arkansas is a team that may struggle to find 7 wins this year. They already have they have 4 losses back to back. So they're staring their 5th loss dead in the face. I think they're going to struggle to get to 7 wins this year. But I do think they keep it closer than 20.5. Jalen Milroe is definitely the answer offensively for Alabama, not in that he's the best quarterback in the country, not in that he's a top 5 to 10 to maybe even 15 quarterback in the country. He's, in all honesty, no shots at Jalen Milroe here, but Alabama and Alabama fans have gotten really comfortable having Bryce Young, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, you know what I mean?
Even Mac Jones when he was there.
Mac Jones when he was there was not in New York because it was the COVID year, but was top 5 in the Heisman race. The year Devontae Smith, one of their wide receivers, won it. So, they don't have a Devontae Smith. They don't have a Julio. They don't have Bryce Young or Tua or any of the guys I've named. They don't have that this year. I will say Jermaine Burton has been playing really, really well. He would be the closest comparison to any of those breakout wide receivers. Jalen Milroe hasn't been that. He hasn't been able to put himself in the conversation with those other quarterbacks mentioned, but he is the best quarterback on that roster. I think they need to rally behind him, let him run the offense in the way that he would be the most productive, put the ball on the ground a lot. Look, they're leading, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong here, feel free to look it up real quick, but I want to say Alabama is top 2 in rush attempts this year. I believe that's true. I mean, straight back to hard-nosed Alabama football. Am I wrong?
I'm checking right now.
Okay. I think I'm right. I'm pretty sure I'm right there. But they are absolutely going back to, and even if I'm not right, they're definitely top 10. They were leading.
I can't find the standings of it, but they have 231 rushing attempts.
I mean, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Through 6 weeks of football, that is a lot. So they're back to hard-nosed Alabama, run-it-down-your-throat football, and I think that's what they need to be this year. Their defense is good enough to keep them in a lot of games, but they're not going to go put up, or they're not going to air it out and put up 40, 50 points like they've gotten comfortable doing. That being said, Arkansas is a good enough team to stay in the game. I don't see them losing by 3 possessions, but I do think Alabama wins. And I think Arkansas finds themselves in a really tricky situation with a solid team that isn't quite good enough to win close games, or just honestly a team that struggles to win the close games because they've found themselves in one-possession games multiple times this year and couldn't pull it out. And so they're really not a bad team. They're just a team that can't win the close one. And they're playing teams that are equal to a little bit better than them and losing. And that's tough. You're staring your fifth loss in a row in the face, and now Arkansas's got a question: is Sam Pittman the guy? And that hurts because I think he's done a lot for that program and has really kind of put them back in the conversation of the SEC West. Again, they haven't won it in several years, a long time they haven't won it, but they've been better as of late than they had been historically. So that's going to be an interesting one. That's going to be a really, really interesting thing if we find towards the end of the season Sam Pittman being on the hot seat, because I don't know if he necessarily deserves to be. I know losing 5 games in a row doesn't help your case, but I think he's done a lot of good for that program, and I would hate to see him go as the head coach at Arkansas. But nonetheless, Alabama wins 1 to 2 possession game this week. All right, another top 25 matchup, North Carolina versus 25 Miami. North Carolina is a 3.5-point favorite here. Again, so we made the comment earlier about Miami quite literally fumbling the game away last week to Georgia Tech. All they had to do was kneel it, sit on it, run the clock out. You were inside 40 seconds with the ball. Georgia Tech had no timeouts. You run it, you fumble. Well, you don't fumble, but they rule it a fumble. Georgia Tech goes down the field, scores in 3 plays, takes the lead with 2 seconds left.
And he slid before he hit the end zone, by the way. I just want to put that out there, too.
He gave himself up.
He did. His slide started before the end zone. That's all I'm going to say.
Look, dude, I'm with you, but you get no sympathy from me.
Oh, no, I'm not sympathizing at all.
Yeah.
You take the knee and you win the game.
Yeah.
But
look, I can acknowledge I haven't studied the slide. Like, I don't know if he was actually if he gave himself up early. I don't know. He may have. But we've all seen it. We've seen the play where they fumbled it, right? He was down. He was for sure down. But at the same time, you don't deserve to have it. Sit on it. Take a knee. That's respect the game enough to take a knee and not run the freaking play, and that's how you lose games. So at the end of the day, you get no sympathy from me. That it sucks to lose that way. I feel horrible for the players on that team. Getting a loss like that is miserable, but it is what it is, man.
Especially with the season they were having.
Yeah, and Tyler Van Dyke's been playing out of his mind all year. He gets a chance to redeem himself. North Carolina just hung 40 points this week. They have, they get one of their best receivers back. They get Tez back. He missed the first 5 games of the year due to ineligibility because the NCAA is a joke. Then they randomly just ruled him eligible, so he got to play last week. But look, Miami's got everything to play for here. They now have a loss. They can't afford to lose anymore. They have a big win over Texas A&M. A win over North Carolina this week would kind of right the ship, get them going in the right direction here. It would really shake up the ACC to have both Miami and North Carolina with not only a loss but conference losses. It would have Florida State sitting really pretty because Clemson has 2 conference losses right now with Duke and Florida State. So things get really tricky. You start looking at, okay, is Louisville a team that's going to find themselves in the ACC championship? Is Florida State for sure going to find themselves in the ACC championship because they still have to play a couple teams? They still got to play Miami. You know what I mean? So it gets tricky. I think I'm looking for a big, big day from Tyler Van Dyke here. I'm also looking for a big day from Drake May. If Duke puts up 40 points this week, they win. That being said, Miami's defense, Miami has the number 1 rush defense in the entire country right now, that's great, right? That's a great stat to have. Running the ball is not necessarily North Carolina's forte. They like to air it out. Drake May is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's projected top 5 draft pick this year. They're going to put the ball in the air. So it's a good matchup offensively for North Carolina. Now, just about anything is a good matchup offensively for anybody playing North Carolina because North Carolina's defense is just simply not great. They weren't last year. We expected with the transfers that they were bringing in that they were going to fix some of their defensive problems, but the chemistry is not all there. They haven't been great defensively. I think this is a quarterback duel all the way through. I'm not mad that it's a 1-possession spread, but I do think North Carolina ends up winning. Thoughts?
I'm going to ride with Miami on this one. I'm going to disagree with you. I think that Miami just comes out after last week, and for some reason I just have a feeling they're just going to come out and they're just going to not dominate, but they're going to play their best games. Tyler Van Dyke's going to go off. That defense is going to go off, and I think that they find a way to squeeze out a win here.
Miami's?
Yes.
Yep. I don't necessarily disagree.
You do, though. Stick by it. You disagree with me. It's okay.
No, but I don't necessarily disagree with the statement you made. I disagree in the outcome. I think North Carolina wins. But judging by what you said, I think that's a fair argument. I think North Carolina is I think North Carolina is a better team. Offensively, maybe not defensively. They're certainly not better than Miami defensively, but I think offensively there's more firepower. They can go put up more points. I think that's the whole scheme for North Carolina is you go out there, this is going to sound dumb, right? Because every team is go out there and score more points, right? But I think it's just it's a track race from the first snap. North Carolina is looking to drop 60 on Miami. Are they going to do that? Probably not. But if they can go put up 38, 41 points, they win. And I think they have more potential to do that than Miami does.
Fair point.
Number 13, Ole Miss is on a bye. They've had a really, really great stretch. They're past their 2 toughest games. No, I lie. They're past their 2 toughest games in the SEC West, in my opinion. They split Alabama and LSU. They're going to get Texas A&M before the season ends. Unfortunately for Ole Miss, they do have to play Georgia out of the East. That's a really rough SEC East draw. And that's going to – if Ole Miss can't win that game late, which I want to – it's like really late in the year, it's going to be a really tough game for Ole Miss to win. But if they end up losing that game, it busts the SEC West wide open. So we'll see what happens there. 14, Louisville at Pitt. Louisville's a 7.5-point favorite. After what they just did to Notre Dame, it's crazy that Vegas hasn't flipped the switch on Pitt or on Louisville, rather. Louisville jumped up to the number 14 team in the country, and I'm not even mad at it with the way they won. They jumped a lot of spots last week. I like Louisville to cover that 7.5. I like them somewhere between 14 and 17 points.
Agreed.
What do you think about Louisville so far?
I mean, can't lie, I don't really know too much, and that's on me. But I will say this: I would not have expected them to be ranked 14th, and they've been a surprising team this year. But that's really all that I can say and speak on. Yeah.
Well, Pitt has a transfer senior at quarterback, Phil Jerkovich. Coming into this season, I don't know that I would have expected him to be an elite quarterback. To be fair, he really hasn't been, and that's, again, to be expected. On the flip side of that, Louisville, Jack Plummer at quarterback. Even with how they played Notre Dame, Plummer didn't have an amazing game. It was Jawar Jordan who balled out, ran all over Notre Dame, which was surprising to me. I really thought that Notre Dame front seven was going to take a step up. They played well against Ohio State. They played well against Duke. And they just didn't. Jawar Jordan ran all over them. I think you see more of that. I think Louisville runs the ball really efficiently against Pitt and finds a way to cover that 7.5-point spread, probably double it, in my opinion. All right, this is the last top 25 matchup of the weekend. Still have more games to cover, and we'll get there. But number 15, Oregon State gets UCLA, number 18 UCLA at home. Oregon State's a 3.5-point favorite. How are you feeling here?
I like that. I think that Oregon State wins by about between the 7 to 12 range, but I'm not mad necessarily. I mean, 15 versus 18 versus UCLA. Okay. So, yeah, I'm not entirely mad at that. What do you think?
Yeah, like you said, it's going to be in Corvallis.
It's going to be what?
In Corvallis. It's at Oregon State.
Oh. I was like, what is that word?
You don't hear well. It's fine.
Not me. I got these on for a reason.
Here's the thing. UCLA's got the second best run defense in the entire country. On the flip side, Oregon State's got a top 15 run offense. I think you see that. I think you see them go head-to-head. Oregon State's going to try to run the ball really well. DJ Uiagalelei is playing really well this year, or better than he did at Clemson, for sure. There's no doubt about that. I think you see Oregon State try to run the ball successfully, and I think you see UCLA try to defend that second-run defense title. And I think that is simply the difference in the game. I think if UCLA can find a way to keep Oregon State under 150 rushing yards, which I know is a lot, right? And I'm saying in totality, 150 rushing yards, no matter who's running it. And I'm not saying one player to run for 150 yards. I'm saying the team. If Oregon State does not run for 150 rushing yards, UCLA wins. That's my prediction. Oregon State's got a good defense. UCLA's got a good defense. But UCLA lost a lot. They lost a lot. Like Jake Bobo's not there. Like, you know what I mean? Like Zach Charbonnet is not there. Dorian Thompson-Robinson's not there. Who is there is Dante Moore. Dante Moore's there, and Carson Steele at running back. He played amazing last week. So looking to see both teams try to run the ball successfully. And I think when you look at the matchups, I think UCLA is going to do better at defending the run. So I'm going to go UCLA here in a close one. Number 16, Utah versus Cal. Utah needs Cam Rising back immediately. They're now looking at what do they have? They have 2 losses on the year.
I believe so.
Yeah, they need Cam Rising back immediately because I genuinely think they're Cam Rising away from being a contender in the Pac-12. At this point, with 2 losses, that conversation's over. Losing to the 2 teams that we just talked about, UCLA and Oregon State, in back-to-back weeks, it gets really tough for them to find themselves in the Pac-12 championship. But hey, last year they were 9-3 in the regular season and found themselves there. So it's never necessarily out of the question, specifically when you are a Pac-12 team. Everybody kind of beats each other up. If they can get Cam Rising back, then I think you see that Utah offense take a step up with the players on that team. Brant Keithy at tight end, it has not been utilized the way I would like to see him utilized this year, and I think that's largely indicative of who your quarterback has been. They get Cam Rising back, I think you see a different Utah team that can hang with a lot of teams in the country and be really, really good and competitive. But without Cam Rising, I think they're a mid-tier Pac-12 team. I think they're still good enough to beat Cal, but that's why the line's 11.5. So I'm going to take Utah, but my view of Utah is really smeared until Cam Rising takes the field.
Yeah.
17, Duke versus NC State. Really interesting line here. Duke's only a 3.5-point favorite. So unfortunate for Duke that Riley Leonard got hurt in that Notre Dame game. That really hurts them because he's been awesome for them this year. NC State's not a terrible team. They played Louisville well. They ended up losing that game, but they played Louisville well, and they're always a team that sits somewhere around that 7-8 win mark. Never quite. They really don't find themselves getting to that 10-win mark, even with a solid defense. A couple years ago, we were talking about NC State saying they had one of the best linebacker rooms in the entire country, not just the ACC, but the entire country. And then again, found themselves at the end of the year, week 14, they had seven or 8 wins. I think that's kind of where NC State sits. They're good enough to beat good teams, but they're also going to lose 4 or 5 games a year. I'm going to ride Duke in this one, but without Riley Leonard, I really don't know what to expect. So I'm going to keep an eye on this game. I'm definitely going to be watching this game just to see what Duke can be without Riley Leonard. But I'm not mad at the line. I like a one-possession Duke win.
Agreed.
19 Washington State versus Arizona. Washington State's an 8.5-point favorite. Hey, look, Cameron Ward has been great all year. He's been great all year except for last week. The numbers last week weren't great against Oregon State. And his counterpart this week, a redshirt freshman from Arizona, has balled in his last 2 games. He played Washington and he played USC, and he's put up elite numbers in both games. This kid is the truth. I didn't think I would be saying that about an Arizona quarterback coming into the season, especially a young guy at Arizona. That being said, I'm not at all mad at this line. Look, we actually locked this game. We have Arizona, and look, this line's going to sound crazy, but it is a lock. We're taking Arizona plus 19.5. Means they can lose by anything under 20 points. Arizona's 5-1 against the spread this year. It's minus 320 odds. With the way that the redshirt freshman, I really struggle with his name. You'll have to forgive me. But the quarterback at Arizona right now has been playing. I love them to be in the game late. They were in the game against Washington. They damn near won it against USC. I think this is a really, really close game, and I think this kid over at Arizona right now is look, he's too good to play the remainder of his career at Arizona. I think what's happening right now is he's putting his resume in, he's showing off on the field, and next year he'll be playing somewhere else, and he'll be on a really good team next year. So we'll see what happens. I like Arizona if I had to put a line here, I'd put Washington State probably minus 6.5. But I would not be shocked to see the upset this week. Washington State is really good offensively. Cameron Ward is a really good quarterback. But with the way Arizona's been playing the last couple weeks, I would not be shocked to see the upset. So,
Agreed.
All right, we have 19 Tennessee versus Texas A&M. Tennessee's a 3-point favorite. I don't like that. I don't like that. We saw Tennessee lose to Florida really in kind of beat down fashion. Florida ran all over them early in the year. Texas A&M is more talented than Florida, and it's not close. They have more talent all over the field. If Connor Wegman was playing, and I know he's hurt, he's done for the year, but if Connor Wegman was the starting quarterback at Texas A&M this week, they would be an overwhelming favorite, in my opinion. So I'm taking the upset. I like Texas A&M to win this game.
I don't disagree.
I like Texas A&M going into Neyland and winning this game. Joe Milton Jr., look, he had all the hype coming into the year. He said he could throw the ball 90 yards through the air. He did. We saw it. We all saw it. But statistically, in terms of production, in terms of efficiency, he hasn't been what they hyped him up to be. That doesn't mean he's been a bad quarterback, but he hasn't been it wasn't an equal. He hasn't given you equal production from what Tennessee got with Hendon Hooker last year, and that's really hard to ask of anybody. Hendon Hooker played a hell of a season last year, but they lost Jalen Hyatt. You know what I mean? They lost. Man, I'm struggling. They lost Jalen Hyatt. They lost their top 2 receivers last year. They got Brew McCoy back. Squirrel White's been decent this year, but I don't know. I look at this game and I think Texas A&M's equal in talent. They played a really close game against Alabama last week. They got a solid win over Auburn. They did lose that game to Miami. They got kind of beat down against Miami. I like Texas A&M to go to Knoxville and find a win here. 22 LSU versus Auburn. LSU is minus 11.5. Again, that's all offense. I don't know if I love that line. I like LSU to go put up 35 or more. Their offense has just been too good. Again, just watching them against Missouri last week, they went and put up 49 points for the second consecutive week. The offense is just lethal. But I don't know if I like them to beat anybody by 11.5 right now. I don't necessarily care who it is. So Jarquez Hunter over at Auburn, really, really good running back. We saw him 2 weeks ago. Sorry, give me 1 second. We saw him 2 weeks ago just really take it to Georgia and punish them early with dominant runs. You saw that from Peyton Thorne as well. He showed what he can do on the ground. They utilized the read option really, really well against Georgia. If that's the route they're going to take, then they'll be more successful against LSU. LSU's front seven has really struggled this year. They have not preseason. They were rated preseason as the number 6 defensive line. So not necessarily talking about front seven, but defensive line. They were rated as the number 6 defensive line in the country heading into the season, and they have not been that. The linebacker room has had a lot of turnover. They can't really seem to figure out who the starters are there. All the questions were about the secondary, and rightfully so. The secondary has been not just struggling. They've been bad this year. I want to say LSU is 109th in scoring defense. I think that Auburn rushing attack is really I think it's going to keep them in the game for a lot of the game. I don't think they'll be able to keep up scoring-wise with LSU, but I like Auburn to cover the 11.5. So I'm going to take LSU to win by somewhere between 3 to 10 points.
And you said you're going to this game this weekend, right?
Yeah.
I'm also going to this game this weekend. And
We live in Baton Rouge. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know about you, but I got my tickets on SeatGeek.
Yeah.
I used code 10-second runoff, and I got $20 off.
What are you spending that $20 on?
Beer.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. One, it's going to a breakfast burger and a breakfast mimosa. That's what it's going for.
Okay.
And then $5 for cover to get into the bar.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm gonna
I got this down to a science.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my $20, right?
And you're gonna go buy more corn dogs.
Not corn dogs, but what I'm gonna look with the $20 I saved on SeatGeek using code 10-second runoff. I'm gonna go over to Fred's. I'm gonna get myself a game day steak, and I'm gonna get a couple Jack and Cokes because that is my game day drink, right? You can drink beer all day. You get to the stadium. Look, beer before liquor, never sicker, right? But liquor before beer.
Or just drink beer and then drink more beer. And then when you're tired of drinking beer, just drink another beer.
Well, it's starting to sound like a problem.
I'm not an alcoholic, I swear.
We're just football fans. You know how that goes.
We're football fans in the South.
Yeah. All right. 23 can't – wait, use code 10-second runoff on SeatGeek. You're going to save yourself money. Do whatever you would like with that $20, but save yourself $20, right? It's just the right thing to do. 23 Kansas at Oklahoma State, rather. Kansas is a 3.5-point favorite. Oklahoma State has been bad this year. Bad. Jalen Daniels is really the only silver lining of Kansas this year. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, Jalen Daniels has been the only silver lining for Kansas this year. I know he got injured a couple weeks ago. Hoping to see him be back. Let's see, Kansas. Yeah, he will not be. So it'll be Jason Bean this week, redshirt senior, transfer. Yeah, I got nothing on this game, to be honest with you. I think I wouldn't be shocked to see Oklahoma State win. They've been bad this year, but the only good thing about Kansas has been Jalen Daniels, and if he's not back yet, then give me Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
24 Kentucky versus Missouri. Kentucky's a 2.5-point favorite. I don't know if I like that. I think when you look at Kentucky, you're looking at Devin Leary and you're looking at Ray Davis, and Ray Davis is the piece to that offense that makes everything go. You saw it a couple weeks ago against Florida. You did not see it last week against Georgia. And you saw what the scoring difference did, right? If Ray Davis is playing well, Kentucky's a really good team. If any team can bottle up Ray Davis, then Kentucky's very beatable. So I think Kentucky's a good team. I think Missouri is also a really good team. Again, Missouri would be a 0.5-point favorite on a neutral field. Brady Cook had the longest streak in college football of not turning the ball over going into the LSU game. Last week, he threw 2 interceptions. I don't think you see that again. I think you see Missouri right the ship and play soundly I think you see Missouri find themselves back in the rankings after this week, and you may see Kentucky drop out. I think Missouri wins it by probably 10 points or so. I'm looking for a really big day out of Luther Burden. He's currently leading all of college football in passing yard or in receiving yards rather. Right now, Brady Cook is top 10 in passing yards. I think you look for that connection big time this week. I'm looking for Missouri to go score 30-plus points, and I don't think Kentucky's going to be able to keep up. Now, the key for Kentucky, get the ball in Ray Davis's hands and control clock. If they can control the time of possession, then they're going to be just fine. That's where I'm at. I do like Missouri to go win the game.
Agreed. I agree.
You good?
Yeah, we're good.
We good? Is there something wrong with the stream?
No, we're good.
Okay. That's all the games this week. Getting on to locks of the week. I told you one of them already. But we have Arizona plus 19.5 against Washington State. Again, all they have to do is lose by less than 20, and we're solid. They've lost one possession games to both Washington and USC in back-to-back weeks. I feel solid about this one. So, again, Arizona's 5-1 against the spread this year. That individual is minus 320 odds. Parlaying that with LSU versus Auburn, we're taking the alternate total points at 55.5. We're not taking a winner. We're not taking the spread. We're taking alternate total points at 55.5 points. That one's minus 192. But LSU they've hit the over in the last 4 games. They're just putting up unreasonable amount of points. You saw it against Ole Miss. You saw it against Missouri. Against Arkansas, there was 60-some-odd points scored in total. So, look, I'm looking for – we're essentially putting all of our trust here in Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas Jr. The connection between those three the last several weeks has been unbelievable. Malik Neighbors is second in receiving yards the entire country. Brian Thomas Jr. is leading the country in touchdown receptions. And Jaden Daniels is top 5 in all of passing yards, efficiency, and passing touchdowns. So we're riding the over. We're riding the over until they give us a reason not to.
It is the night game, though.
And, oh, my God, it's the night game. We always miss the night game. Do with that information what you will. But that being said, we're taking the over on them not just because of the offense. The offense has been elite, like national championship contending offense. The defense has been just the opposite. So we're taking whoever is playing LSU to go put up 20 to 30 points of their own. So I love LSU's over this year. We're going to just – whether that's in our locks or not, you can rest assured we're hammering LSU's over every week. The third leg of that parlay is Oregon plus 9.5 against Washington. Again, I took Washington to win this one. I took Washington to win this one in a close one. A one-possession game is what I said. This is minus 310. Oregon is 5-0 against the spread this year. The line is 2.5 Washington's way. So what that means is historically, or in recent history this year, Oregon is 5-0 against the spread, and that means essentially they would have to either lose by less than 2 or win the game to go 6-0 against the spread, and I don't think either of those are crazy. I did pick Washington to win by one possession, but like I said, I think Oregon has more ways to win the game. So we'll see how that plays out. I like whichever team wins, I think they win by one possession. I think this is a dogfight all the way through. Just to run through that, Arizona plus 19.5, LSU versus Auburn alternate total points at 55.5, and then Oregon plus 9.5. Total odds come out to plus 163. Not telling you to tail this bet, but this is what we're taking. If you want to tail it, do what you will. Put whatever dollar amount you want on that. If you were to put $100, you'd make $163. So that's where we're at. That's all we got looking into week 7. Should be a fun week, another fun weekend of college football. Again, Oregon, Washington face off. One of those teams will not be unbeaten after this weekend, as well as Notre Dame pushes USC, could potentially give USC their first loss. And, you get a couple ACC matchups that are really going to shake things up as well. So excited for week 7. If you're going to any of the games, use code 10-second runoff on SeatGeek. Save yourself $20. Do whatever you would like with that $20, but be responsible. Save yourself $20. There's no reason not to, right?
Take that $20, throw it on this parlay, wins
Boom.
even more money,
Boom.
and then buy more tickets. Use a different email. Use code 10-second runoff again.
Yeah,
See,
just
I'm
keep making
giving y'all a
emails.
game.
Keep making emails. Different SeatGeek accounts every time. Code 10-second runoff. I'm not actually telling you to do that. Oh my God, please. SeatGeek, don't cut us off. Appreciate y'all for being here. Looking forward to recapping this week.